Hi everyone and happy holidays. I am so happy you're here because we are going to cover a very important topic, table setting. And so many people say, I get overwhelmed when setting a table, but really it's so easy. And today I'm going to teach you how to set a table, no matter if it's a really informal, very casual holiday meal, just you and one other person, or you're having a huge meal or a very, very formal meal. Everything in between, don't worry, I've got you covered. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about how to set the perfect table so you can do it time and time again. And really, it's just kind of a skill set that you can have. You can refer back to this video if you need to, but you don't even have to have all the pieces that you need to set the table today. You can just watch it and learn. Or if you have plates and forks and knives with you already, you can practice along with me and we can set the table together. So today's video is just for you. Happy holidays. It's going to be so easy. Anyone can do it. Thank you so much for joining. Let's get started. So by the end of this video, you're going to know what all these pieces are and how to set a table depending on how many courses you are having. Now, to get started, this right here, this gold plate here is called a service plate. That's its technical name. But in America, we often call it a charger as an informal name. Now, it's very American to have these. You wouldn't really see chargers or service plates in Europe or Great Britain. They're very common in America, but that's pretty much it in terms of location. Now, when do we use a charger or service plate? We use them to be decorative. So for example, maybe a holiday table like this, and you can also use them to protect a table from heat or condensation. Now, let's also look at the main dining plate here. On top of it is the napkin, which again, this is an American place setting. And so we are looking at here, this little napkin ring, again, is very American. You typically don't see these a lot in Europe or Great Britain, but as we are setting an American place setting today for the holidays, you might see these. Now, when you take off a napkin ring, if you're the guest, you can just put it up here at the top of the place setting or out of the way when you're using it, and then take the napkin and put it in your lap. Now, over here, we have our main dining fork. Now, you can always remember that the fork goes on the left side of the place setting because it has 4 prongs, L-E-F-T, F-O-R-K. Therefore, we know the fork always goes on the left side of the table. Now, knife, K-N-I-F-E, R-I-G-H-T. We know that the knife goes on the right. Now, the blade of the knife always faces in toward the plate. Now, here we have a second knife and fork. What are these for? This is our starter fork and our starter knife. So let's say we are having a main dining plate. Let's say you're having ham with mashed potatoes and peas. Then that's your main dining course. But if you're starting, let's say you're starting with a beautiful asparagus risotto with some salmon or some shrimp on it, then you would need a second set of cutlery for that initial course, right? That first course. So that course here is called your starter course. Now here we have this spoon here. It's called a soup spoon. The soup spoon always goes on the right. So we can remember S-P-O-O-N-R-I-G-H-T. The soup spoon always goes on the right. Now, if you're not having soup, you do not set the table for soup. So only if you're having that course of soup would you set the table to have that soup spoon there on the right. So for now, we'll take it away and we'll just start with one course, the first course here, and the second course here, which is our main dining course. So today we're having these two courses. Now bread, this is the bread plate. The bread does not count as a course. And you'll notice this is a butter knife. You can put it up, kind of like this, vertical. You can also put it horizontal at the top of the plate. It's a matter of personal preference. So today I've done it vertically. Now, what is this silverware up here? This silverware is at the top of the dining plate. It's the last thing we reach toward. It is for dessert. There's a dessert spoon and a dessert fork. Now, you can see the placement here. The dessert spoon is always on the top and the dessert fork is always on the bottom. There's no such thing as a dessert knife. So we just want to stick to those two pieces there. Now, if you just have a dessert fork, because let's say you're just having cake, then you can absolutely just put down the fork. If you were just having, let's say you were having pie a la mode, which means ice cream with pie, then you might want to put them both down. So that is dessert cutlery. Now, to have the cutlery at the top of the plate, again, is American dining. You wouldn't see that in Great Britain, for example. Now, let's take a look over here at the glassware. Here we have, this is the water glass. So the water glass is a very short, little short stem there. The water glass goes directly above the main dining knife, just main dining knife directly above. Then here you can see we have a white wine glass. Then we have our red wine glass behind that. And at the end of the meal, we have a champagne flute. Now the champagne flute, I always like to say this champagne flute floats, because if we were starting with a champagne toast, we would put it on the outside because it's the first thing we would grab to start our meal with a champagne toast. But because I've set it back here, that means we're probably having champagne with our dessert as a dessert toast at the end of the meal, as a celebratory cake and champagne, perhaps. Now, if you are not serving red wine, then you do not set the red wine on the table. If you are not serving champagne, you do not set the champagne flute. So if we saw this on our table setting, we know as the guest, we are having water and white wine served today. Let's say that we are just having one course, just a one-course meal. Then remember, you only set the table with the pieces you need to enjoy the meal. So if we were sitting down and we just were having that ham and mashed potatoes and peas, that one course that your host is bringing and going to put in front of their guests, then you would not need the starter. So we would remove our starter cutlery because you only put down the silverware that you're going to use during the meal. Now let's talk about the actual placement of everything and how we make things look really nice and neat at the table. So let's say we were having a table of two for a meal. Then this place setting should mirror the person sitting across from us. It almost becomes a perfect mirror. So everything this place setting has, the one across from us has. Now you never want the plate to be too far over where it's hanging off the plate, for example, and you don't want it to be too far like that so that your guest has to pull the plate toward you. So I would say right about there is a really nice, comfortable place setting for most people. So it's just the rim is just kind of touching the end there. Now, how far apart do we put the fork there? What do we do? How far apart should things be? Well, there's actually no specific measurement. It depends on how many people are sitting at your table. If you have a big, long, let's say rectangular table, and you have 5 people or 6 people at that table, you might have less space. So your place setting will be a little bit closer together. But if there's only 2 of you sitting at a long rectangular table, you've got all the space in the world to be able to set your table. So you might, let's say on this side, if I have plenty of space, I might go kind of 2 inches or an inch, let's say an inch and a half away from this charger. It feels nice and comfortable. And if I go an inch and a half on this side, then I want to go about an inch and a half on this side, just to make it as equidistant. It's about being equidistant here. Now, do I put the silverware here? Do I put it up here? What do I do? So again, something that's comfortable for the user, because remember, etiquette is all about thinking about the guest. And so let's say if I put it right about there. Now, when I'm holding cutlery, I always hold at the point of balance when I'm setting the table. But just for the sake of showing you here, we are going to be, let's say that's pretty good over there. Then on this side, I want to kind of mirror that. Now, if I were to add a second course, let's say I'm adding a second course, say I want to be about an inch on that side, then I also then want to be about an inch on this side. So again, you're keeping it equidistant. Now, one thing you can do, you can use a ruler, you can use a tape measure, and you can actually physically measure out everything. You can line the tape measure or the ruler at the bottom of the place setting to make sure everything is, again, equidistant and nice and measured. If you really want to get very specific, I like to do that once I've set the whole table with everybody at the the meal, then I take my ruler and I just make sure everything is nice and set, everything's equidistant, and then that's how you create a beautifully polished table. So the next example I'll show you is that little cheat sheet I promised you, which is one of my place settings from the Plaza Hotel finishing program, which we run at the Plaza Hotel. And I'm going to show you this little cheat sheet that you can take a picture of to refer back to, or just come on here whenever you need it to show you the overall place setting, so you kind of have that as a reference guide. Now, if you are the host and let's say you have 5 people, the correct etiquette is that a really good host, might have already thought about the seating chart and where everybody should belong to make sure everybody has great conversation and whatnot. But if I'm the host and this is my seat, then the place cards would usually go right above the dessert or just slightly up to the left. Now, if that's the case, do remember that the host does not get a place card, because I, as the host, I know where I'm sitting. My guests all get place cards, however, so when they come up to the table, they know where they're sitting. So a thoughtful host really does plan out where everybody's sitting just to make sure everyone has great conversation and that everybody's having a wonderful time. So a recap here, if this place setting was set just like this would be for how many courses? 1 course, 2 course, 3 course, again, because the bread does not count as a course. So this is set for a 3-course meal. And if we were going to take these 2 away, this is set for 1 course, 2 course. So you have a 2-course meal here, again, with the bread. And we've got our water, which goes directly above our main dining knife. And we have our white wine glass in this situation. Now, again, if I wanted to add, as a little recap, I wanted to add the champagne as a start to the meal, champagne toast. It's the first glass we're going to pick up to start the meal. Therefore, the champagne floats and it comes to the outside of that white wine glass. So then we have the 3 different beverages here. One way to remember which side of the table everything goes on. If you do this is a trick that I show to children all the way up to executives, whatever works in terms of helping them remember. This is a lowercase b for bread, and this is a lowercase d for drinks on my right. So bread plate goes on the left, D for drinks go on the right. So you can always remember that. Also, if you're a car fan, BMW, bread, meal, water, wine, and also if you're having coffee or tea with dessert, the coffee and the tea would go on this side right here. And by that point, of course, if we're serving coffee and tea with dessert, all of these would have been taken away and we would just have our dessert plate. The bread plate would already be taken away with our dessert cutlery, and then our coffee and our tea would be over here. So just remember at the end of the day, don't overcomplicate it. You only set the table with the tools or silverware and glassware that you need to enjoy the meal. If you're not having bread, then you don't set the table with a bread plate because it can confuse the guest. Remember to keep things simple. Now, please go ahead and let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. And if there's anything, let's say, would you like to learn how to dine with this meal? Are there any tricky foods you'd love to learn how to eat? Let me know again in the comment section. And I will maybe next, or one of the next videos I make, use that time to show you how to hold your fork and knife correctly, or how to be a guest at a formal meal or an informal meal like this. So whatever you want to learn, let me know. Thank you so much for joining. Remember, on that note, let's go ahead and enjoy this meal. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click that little button below and subscribe, and then I'll be giving you all sorts of amazing new videos from this moment on to help you live a little bit more of a refined, polished, and etiquette-approved life. So I can't wait to see you next time, and thank you for joining.